You may have heard the term general education, but do you really understand what it means? Today we're going to be looking at the different options for general education and how you can interpret the grids on how to choose your best options within it. All right, let's get started. General education is necessary for associate's degrees of all kinds here at Columbia and any institution. It also is required for transfer to a four-year university for that bachelor's degree, whether that is a private or a public institution, whether it's in-state or out of state. It is not necessary for certificates. Sometimes the certificate will have it built in, a particular math class or a particular English class because it's really helpful to that particular skill set. But remember, those certificates are really designed for specific job skills rather than the general broad-based liberal arts education. Our general education patterns are found in your catalog on page 54 and 55. So this is a picture of page 54, and this catalog is a little bit older, so yours might look a little bit different, but in general, things are the same. So I'm going to use this as an example. For our standard associate's degrees, this column on the very left-hand side is it lists out the requirements that you would need for our standard associate's degrees, all of our AAs or AS degrees. This second column in to the right is the ASOE degrees, our occupational education. Those are closely tied with those certificates, and you can attach some general ed on top of those certificates and obtain an associate's degree in those specific areas. Typically, the general ed requirements are a little bit less. They're still up to state standard par, so it's not a lesser degree. It just allows more flexibility within your 60-unit requirement to obtain those skill-based courses that you need for your area of job, or job training. This middle area is all the courses that can fulfill those particular requirements. We'll jump in there in a second. But this last column to the right for the CSU transfer, that is California State University transfer general education requirements. And these are also the requirements that are used for our associate's degrees for transfer because they are lined up with the CSU transfer patterns. So each one of them have different little instructions that you need to make sure you're following all the way down each column. And for example, our standard associate's degree requires 3 courses from area A, 1 from A1, 1 from A2, and 1 from A3. All the ones in this area must have a C or higher to be counted. Now, you have different options within each of these areas, which makes it a little confusing, but also sort of fun because you get a choice in what you want to do in your education. So to complete area A1, where's my mouse? There, where'd it go? There it is. SpeechComm 1 or SpeechComm 4 are your 2 options. How in the world would you know what those courses entail? Well, I'm going to skip a couple slides, and this is how you would know. You would go into the course descriptions. I think the current catalog starts around page 107, but you can also link directly to the catalog descriptions or course descriptions online, and this will tell you what a SpeechComm 1 is or what a SpeechComm 4 is. This one starts with the A's in anthropology, but you can see here that it gives you the course name and the full name of it, not just the title of it, how many units it is, whether it's a lecture or a lab-based course, like these art classes have some lab time attached to it. It also allows you to see what the course entails, the content, and whether or not it's a UC or CSU transferable course. If you are hoping to transfer to a university, you want to make sure you're very careful about choosing courses that are transferable. Also, we have courses at Modesto Junior College that are similar courses, and if we have that similar course and that is what it is, it'll state it right there so that you know it's the identical course. All right, back to the main grid here. You would do that with each area to fulfill the requirements that you would need for your particular column. For example, ASOE only requires 2 courses, one from A2, which is English 1A typically, unless you had an AP class in high school that you got a score of 3 or higher on an AP exam, and then one additional course in A1 or A3. There it is. So you would get a choice between those two, but for a standard AS or the CSU transfer, you need all 3 of those sections fulfilled. Now you're going to do that for each category. However, these ones are a little more complex. There's lots of choices here. A physical science requirement. If you are a science major, you're going to be taking lots of chemistry. We can use those chemistry classes to fulfill your general ed as well, or maybe even physics. If you are a natural resources major, you might want to take Nature 6, which is actually in the grid now, not in this old one. It's a soil sciences class. You might be interested in geology, which is an earth science class. If you're not a huge science buff and studying the earth makes you a little bit nervous, or studying chemistry makes you nervous, you can do an earth science class like astronomy or meteorology or oceanography. There's all kinds of options for you to fulfill your general ed in an effective and actually sort of interesting way. A life science is a requirement for a general education degree or a transfer, and you don't just want to take the first one off the list. It may or may not be your best choice. Right here in the and that's for every category, not just this one, but in the life sciences, Anthropology 1, it's a great course, physical anthropology, but it doesn't have a lab requirement. Maybe you need a lab requirement to fulfill area B3. And all of our biology classes have lab requirements. So if you choose Bio 17, which is kind of buried in the list, but that is what is the standard non-biology majors biology class, Bio 17. Also Bio 24 can work, it's a general ecology class. But those two are buried in there, but they would also allow you to meet your lab requirement. Bio 2 is Principles of Biology, but that is designed for hardcore biology majors and requires some math and some chemistry prerequisites now. So you want to make sure you're choosing particular courses. The course descriptions will also give you whether or not there's a prerequisite requirement for that particular course, and that can help you choose most effectively as well. In this area B, there's a little math area, and I know a lot of people are apprehensive about math, but it is required as a general ed. And in an associate's degree level, Math 104 is what is required for graduation, which is our Algebra 2 course. But in order to be eligible for a CSU transfer, you have to have a course listed in the B4 area. So that takes you up to transfer level math. Depending on what your major is, there is probably a best math choice for you. If you're going to be, again, biology, science, that kind of major, you're probably looking at calculus or pre-calculus courses. If you're going to be a psychology major, or sociology, or something in the behavioral sciences, maybe statistics is better course for you. If you're going to be a business major, you might be looking at finite math, maybe statistics. So it really depends across the board what you're going for, and what the transfer institution that you want to go to is actually looking to receive from you, and what they will accept from Columbia. You would determine that at assist.org, and a counselor can help you with that. This is one of the areas that is different in every single category, so I just wanted to point it out. For a standard associate's degree, you need 2 courses, one from C1, one from C2. If you're going for an ASOE, you only need 1 course, and it can be from any of these areas. If you're going for a CSU transfer or an associate's degree for transfer, you need 3 courses. You need 1 from C1, 1 from C2, and then a 3rd one from that entire area. So there's a lot of choices to be had. You also want to read the fine print. There are classes that are double listed. For example, English 1B is up here in A3 as well as C2, and you cannot use them in both areas of general ed and have it count. You can use English 1B within your major. Say you're an English major and you're required to take that for your major. You can double dip from your major into general ed, but not from general ed to general ed area. The next page is very similar, but I'm going to give you the little warning about reading the fine print as well. For an associate's degree, you need 2 activity courses. It's PE classes, but we call them Health and Human Performance at Columbia College. And so you want to make sure you, again, read the fine print on that. And then for a CSU transfer, CSU has what they call an American Ideals graduation requirement. And that's a political science 10, which is U.S. government, and a U.S. history class. So you have a few choices to choose from to meet that requirement, and that is explained here in this fine print down below. All right, we already talked about the course descriptions. General education for University of California specifically, the UC schools are more picky than CSUs when it comes to general education, and so they and the CSUs have worked together to come up with what they call the IGETC general ed pattern. It stands for that big old long word up there, Intersegmental General Education Transfer Curriculum. So we just like to say IGETC. And it is broken down very similarly to the other ones in areas. They're just mapped out a little differently. And so instead of a grid, you have a list, right? You'll see the same English 1A course on both places. There are a few little caveats, like they only want Drama 10. They don't allow or like all the other drama classes that a CSU would accept. And so you've got to make sure that if you don't know where you want to go particularly, or you want to keep your options open, lots of private schools also will accept IGETC pattern, a certification for general ed. And so that could be a great pattern to start with if you're unsure of where you want to go. And we can also use the IGETC patterns for our associate's degree for transfer if that lines up with your institution. The only thing I want to mention, and it's here on this slide, is that if you are a science major, especially going to a UC, or an engineering major, computer science major, you have what's called a unit FAT major. You have to take so many science classes, math classes, physics, chemistry, biologies, or computer science type courses or engineering type courses that you are going to be focused more on those courses than the general ed, and there are certain minimum general eds that you can complete here at Columbia that will help you get prepped for that transfer. And you don't have to follow all of that IGETC stuff because they just want you to come with your major prep done. And that's it. That's general ed. That's at least understanding the grids. Hopefully you'll get more from the video about why you have to take it and find some value and benefit in the process of learning.